Hello everybody, today I'm going to unbox the Nintendo Switch 2. I just picked it up at my local Walmart, and this is the Mario Kart 9 Nintendo Switch 2 bundle, so it comes with the downloadable game. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up for the first time. You can see on the front of the box, kind of looks like the original Switch 1 box, except it's more square shaped and more compact than the other one. Also feels a little bit thicker and way heavier than the other one, at least I think it feels heavier. On the back, it just shows the Nintendo Switch 2 with the new dock and the new Switch design. And around the sides, it just shows the Switch on the stand and with the Joy-Con controllers. On the other side, it just shows somebody playing it. So nothing that interesting. So we're going to open it up. I think it opens up right here. And I think it has a flap right here that I pull back. So open that up. And inside, I see the Nintendo Switch 2 itself with the two Joy-Cons right here. And this one seems to be way bigger than the original Switch. The Joy-Cons are especially longer, and this is bulkier, longer than the other Switch, but also taller too. Definitely, if I had the Switch 1 with me, I'd say it was about like that. So adds a few inches more to it. So I like that quite a lot. So we'll go ahead and take it out. We'll take the console out first. It's heavier than the other Switch, as to be expected. Feels a little bit, no, actually I can say it's about the same thickness as the other one, so they didn't have to make it any thicker to get the new processing power into it. I'll open it up here in a second, but you can see they just put it in a little plastic wrapper to keep it safe and out of the way of fingerprints. So I'll just sit that right here right now. And we got the two new Joy-Cons. These just feel cool to hold. They are about the same thickness as the other Joy-Cons, but longer, of course. So we'll go ahead and open those here in a second. I'll put them right here with the rest of this. And under all of this cardboard, I do think there's something in here. Let me see. I got some kind of, oh, that's pretty thick. Health and safety information, all that, like the Nintendo consoles always include. Comes with an HDMI cord to hook it up, so it does come with that at least. And inside of this, we got the two little straps for the new Joy-Con 2 controllers. And they're a bit different than the old ones. I don't quite know how those are going to work yet, so I'm excited to see what those do. And deep inside of the box here, keep going deeper and deeper. Looks like some kind of USB-C charging port. I'm guessing that probably charges the Switch unless it's for something else. And got a new kind of charging block. This is like the kind that charges the modern iPads. So I'm guessing the Switch 2 functions a little more like an Apple product. Inside of here, ooh, I didn't think it would include this. It has the combined controller, like the Switch 1 had, to make it more like a Nintendo Switch Pro controller or an Xbox controller. This is a little more flat than the old one. Like it's actually perfectly flat because the new controllers, I guess, are just going to slide in like that. And it has the magnetic outside for the new Joy-Cons. I like that quite a lot. And there's one more thing in there, I believe. Open that up. Oh wow, this thing's bulky. This thing looks like a computer. We got the new Switch 2 dock. And this is way thicker than the old one. It looks like a Wi-Fi router, I think. And I'll show everything it does here in a second. But you can see here on the back, it's rounded. The old one was more squared. This one is like a rounded outside. I guess a more modernized design for a more modernized console. Inside of it, you can see it has the charging port and all that stuff. And I'm guessing this back here opens up or slides. I don't quite know yet. I don't want to damage it, so we'll wait here in a second and see how that works. And I believe that is everything in the box. Alright, so comparing the two Switches right here, I have my original Switch 1. I think this is from 2019. So this is that edition of the Switch. And I had the Joy-Con that came with it right here. And I'm just comparing that with the Nintendo Switch 2 so we can see the differences in the size and the differences between the console. Also, the crack right here is just in the screen protector. That's kind of the only wear and tear this one has ever gotten. So this should be a pretty good comparison. So if I line them up right here, you can see Switch 2 is a bit bigger. Well, quite a lot bigger, actually. You can see the screen kind of starts right here on the Switch 2 and ends right here. So it's got a way bigger screen than the Switch 1. Also, it tends to, I don't know if this is age on this Switch or not, but you can see this one's way darker, kind of blends. This one gets a lot brighter here. That could be burning on the screen, I don't quite know, but I think it's always been like this. So, yeah, that's really all the differences there is on the screen, not the internal display on the screen. We'll show that off here in a second when I turn the Switch on. But on the Joy-Cons, you see on the Switch 1, it was the classic Joy-Con that we all know and love. It has the two controllers on the top and the little reset button here, and these two buttons with the trigger buttons and the joystick. Now, these things were known to cause something called Joy-Con drift, where it would kind of get stuck like this, even when it wasn't. I don't think that problem is supposed to be on the Switch 2, because I've heard they've resolved it. But you can see the Joy-Cons have something on them now on the Switch 2 that's supposed to stop that. That's what I've heard is what this little area around it is for, because the Switch 1 didn't have it. And I could feel quite the difference between pressing on this one and how it kind of comes back. And this one immediately pulls back to the middle to stop things like that from happening, I believe. But we'll have to put it to the test here in a second. Now, on the bottoms of these two, you can see it has the two trigger buttons up here. They're quite a bit bigger on this one. And it has the reset button here. And instead of the sliding in and powering on controller like the old one had, this one has a magnetic controller that will go in with this right here as well to power it up. And the lights on the Switch 1 are on the bottom here, and the lights on the Switch 2 controller are right here, because I'm guessing the display for the player number and all that will be on top of the controller this time around. On the actual buttons, they're a bit bigger on the Switch 2. You can see the slight difference there. And the other button right here, the home button, screenshot button, whichever button it ends up being at the time, is about the same size on this, so they didn't change that. On the other side, I'm sorry about the fingerprints on these, you can see they really upsized the trigger buttons, like quite a lot. That's about the biggest change I see on these controllers, aside from the size of the actual controller. And the reset, not the reset, but the button that you use to pull the controller off, on here was just this dot. On this one, it's like a trigger that you pull backwards, and you can see the mechanism when I do that. Opens and closes that. So we'll see how that works here in a second, because I'm curious to know as well. So yeah, that seems to be all the differences in the controllers. We'll test them out here in a second, but I do know from the ads that this is supposed to be used like a mouse, so it's going to be like that. So that's going to be really cool. But yeah, it seems to be all the differences between the controllers. On the backs of the Switch, on the Switches, Switch 1 was like this. It had the stand right here, two little vents for the fan up here, game cartridge holder, the headphone jack, volume, power, and the charging port, and then the place to put your controllers. So this one's quite a bit different, as I've seen that it has two USB-C ports instead of one like this has, because this one did not have the two USB-C ports. The game card holder is in the same place as the old one. It looks to be a bit of a different shape though. Still fans in the top. This one has a bit of a longer fan. And the headphone jack, of course. The volume button's actually thinner on this one. Same goes for the power button, but it looks a bit neater on the Switch 2 as well. The stand on this one is the most different, as it stretches all the way across it. This one just had the stand here. I never quite trusted the stand on the Switch 1. I had to put the stand on the Switch 2 to the test to see if it really holds it up, but I've always been worried about breaking the stands. On the bottoms, give me a second, let me just rearrange this. I didn't want to fingerprint it, but I'm going to have to hold it. You can see it has the two USB-C ports, but this one has fans on the bottom, or I believe this fans. I don't quite know yet. We'll just have to see. And on the sides, you can see the mechanism for the Joy-Cons is the most different, because this one's just got that one singular chip that's going to go into it, and this one had where you slide the Joy-Cons down. Other than that, it says Nintendo Switch on this one, Nintendo Switch 2 on this one. This one doesn't have all the labeling and stuff at the bottom like the Switch 1 had, so it's got a neater finish to it. And the actual console itself, this one feels to be made of a different material. It feels like a very high quality material. Switch 1 always felt high quality as well. It's got more of a plasticky feel to it, but it never was like a bad, cheap feel. But this one definitely does feel better. But that's pretty much all the differences between the consoles themselves. Last thing I'm going to show is the differences between the two docks, because these are quite different. Let me just scoot these two out of the way. Switch 2 dock versus Switch 1 dock. Okay, so on the Switch 1, you see one's obviously more square, one's more rounded. The mechanisms on the insides seem to be about the same. I do know from watching reviews that you cannot put the Switch 2 into the Switch 1 dock or vice versa, so you can't charge them both, or they don't intertwine like that. But here is the back. I like the Switch 2 dock shape a lot, and I feel like the Switch 1 dock always kind of had problems with the hinge on the back coming off or breaking. I've had one of these break before. It wasn't mine, but it was my brother's, but he's known for breaking things anyway, so that could have been his own doings. But I do know that these break off pretty easily, so I've always been careful with that. This one has the USB port, HDMI port, and the USB-C port. And I've not opened up the Switch 2 yet. Hang on, let me see. How does this come off? I think we're going to cut the camera for a second while I figure this out. Alright, I just had to watch a video on how to pull this thing off because I did not want to break it immediately. But they say you just pull back on this right here. Oh, okay, that was a lot easier than I thought that was going to be. And that just comes off like that. And on the inside of this one does have a bit of a different thing. We got like an HDMI port, USB-C, and I have no idea what that is. So I probably should know what, never mind, it says right here, it says LAN. My inner gamer knowledge should know what that means, but I honestly don't. I think it's something to do with like maybe playing locally or something. I don't quite know, so don't quote me on that. But the old one did not have that port, as you can see. So that's the difference between the two. Other than that, there's just the different front and the different bottom. But that seems, oh, there's something I didn't see. Got two USB ports right there, so you can hook that up to a bunch of other stuff like Switch 2 controllers, Switch Pro controllers. You can probably hook it up to a computer or some lights, headphones or whatever too, so that's useful to have. So yeah, it has more ports than the old Switch dock, so that's definitely an improvement. And from what I hear, this thing has like some internal power too that hooks up to the Switch 2 and does something. I don't quite know yet. I guess we'll learn here in a minute. But yeah, that seems to be all the differences between the Switch docks and all the differences between the actual consoles themselves. Alright, one more thing I forgot was the little connectors for the Joy-Cons, because these do look very, very different, and I really wonder how these are going to work. So you can see the lights are on the top of this one, lights are on the bottom of this one, and this one doesn't have the buttons on the top or anything. I don't know how that's going to work, so I'm just going to slide these on like they normally go. Switch 1 goes on like that. It has your little buttons on the top and all that. Mine's trying to turn on right now. I have not activated my Switch 2 yet, obviously, as I've just been unboxing it. But it appears that these go on like this. Oh, okay, so it's magnetic. That felt very cool to put on, I gotta say. And it goes on like that, and you have your little buttons up here like that. And the lights will be here, so that's really cool. And that seems to be all the differences there. And I think that's all the differences between the consoles, like the actual technical hardware. Alright, and without further ado, I also got this screen protector for the Switch 2 because I always like to have screen protectors on any of my devices. So I'm going to go ahead and slap that thing on it real fast. But this was about $12 at Walmart. I'm sure you can get like an official Nintendo brand one too, but this is just what I found. And we'll see how that looks on it too. But I was just stating that, so if anything looks wonky about the screen, or like there's a film over it or anything, you know why. Alright, I got it hooked up and ready to plug in. I don't know if it's going to do anything when I plug it in, or if it's going to have like a boot up screen. So I'm going to plug it in right there. And something happened, the battery thing came on. Oh, it already has about 3/4 battery on it. There we go. Ooh, it's got music. Very groovy. Turn it up. Alright, so on the setup screen it has all the languages, and it looks to have like 5 different pages because there's so many languages, but I'm going to go down to English US. I think it has a very nice clicking sound. I will go ahead and say up front, the speakers on this one, they sound amazing. Like you hear surround sound. The old Switch did not have that, and I can't wait to play games with this, especially games that have like immersive sound, like The Legend of Zelda. That's going to be really cool to play on here. Sonic games I know will be awesome, but that's besides the point. Let's go ahead and just hit where I'm at. The Americas, end user license agreement. I'll read it later. I gotta go all the way through it though to be able to accept it, I believe. There's a bunch of stuff I'm having to agree to. Don't know what any of it says. There we go. Accept. I hope all that was good. Connect to the internet. I'll connect to our network. There we go. Now just enter our password. We do that off screen. Give me a second, almost done. There we go. Connecting to the internet. Got that part done. It's definitely a lot like the Switch 1 in terms of setup, except it has background music and that instantly makes it better. It's got to download update data. I'm guessing because it's a new console. And it's already doing that, so I gotta put my time zone. Find that. Gotta go down, there we go, New York. And with Nintendo Switch 2, you can play games wherever you want, however you want, it says. It shows a bunch of different people playing it different ways. It says the system can stand at whatever angle you like, just pull out the rear stand. We're gonna see how that works here in a second. It also says you can now connect the AC adapter to the top of the system, so that's gonna be cool too. Oh wait, I know what that means. So we're gonna be able to put the charger into the top of the system and play at the stand. So that way the charger won't be causing it to fall over or anything, so that's cool. I didn't know why that was for. Why they had that. And it's giving some instructions on how to use the stand and how to detach the Joy-Cons. I did want to see this. Here, let me just go ahead and flip this thing over. Also, I did put the screen protector on. And it's actually signaling for me to pull this thing off. So it says hold the release button. And that looks to be this button right here. It says pull to the side. It vibrated and everything. That was really cool. Put it back in. I love this so far. Now you pull this one like this. So once you pull the magnet, actually lets loose. Put it back in like that. That is so cool, I tell you. Everybody needs to experience doing that. And now that I've done that, it's gonna want me to play on a TV. I'm not hooking it up to a TV right now, so I'll just hit later on that. And it says you can use the accessories that came with the system to hold the Joy-Con 2 controllers in multiple ways. So I'm guessing it's suggesting that I use these. We'll see how these work here in a second. You know what? We're just gonna skip it right now though, because I'm gonna keep these connected while I do the video. Choose a style. You can change it at any time. So it looks like we got the playing with a stand with the controllers out here style, playing it on the TV or playing it handheld. I'm just gonna stick it in handheld right now. Got to download that update data. This could take a few minutes, so I'll get back to you once that finishes. All right, system update is complete, and I'm gonna transfer my data to the Nintendo Switch 2 from the Switch 1. So this should be an interesting process. I thought about not recording it on video, but I thought it might be a useful guide for those who are doing it for the first time like I am, because I'm clueless as what to do right now, so I'm just gonna let the Switch 2 guide me. So I'm gonna turn on my Switch 1 as well. And let's see. It says you can transfer data from your Nintendo Switch to this Nintendo Switch 2. You can start a system transfer, don't transfer at all. It says select this option if you don't have a Switch. And there's also an option that says about system transfers. I'm kind of curious as to what that says. So it says when you transfer systems, your data will be copied from one system to the next, so you can easily pick up playing where you left off. I definitely want to do that. And to continue the system transfer, after starting the process on your source system, select Start System Transfer on this system. And it says not all data will be transferred. It will transfer all users, all save data, screenshots and videos, system settings. It won't transfer news. I don't think anybody wants that to transfer anyway, so that works out good. Downloadable software can be re-downloaded after the system transfer is complete. So I can put all my old games on this one too. And it just says I can go to their website. So I am going to do a system transfer. I believe I need to just hit this here first. If you have a micro SD express memory card, insert it. I do not have a card for this one yet, so hopefully it has enough storage for what I'm about to do. Only micro SD express cards, which feature the marks shown in this image, are supported. Other SD cards won't work. So as I've heard, the new Switch, the Switch 2 has a new type of SD card, so you can't use the old ones. That is a terrible decision in my eyes. Maybe there's a reason for it, but we'll get more into that later. I feel like that would be my only complaint if they charge a whole lot more for these new cards, but I have to do my own research into that. But I do hear that they cost a lot more money than the regular micro SDs. And the only reason I can think for them switching that over is to make more money, but we'll just have to see. I'll hit skip on that because I don't have one. First, sign into my Nintendo account. So I'm going to do this off screen because this might take a little while, and I'll turn the camera right back on. Alright, so I got signed back in, and it says move this system and the source system close together to transfer data. So I got my original system right here. I'm going to hit next. It says bring the system close. It should already know that I have it here. I don't know why it's saying that. I guess we'll just see. Please do the following on the source Nintendo Switch system. Here we go. Open the home menu and then select system settings. I assumed I'd be going here because I've seen this option before. And it appears that that is it. Continue the setup process until you see searching for the Nintendo Switch 2. I think it's this button. So we'll see. System's data will be transferred to a Nintendo Switch 2. Yes. Please wait. Okay. Make sure it's nearby. Okay. Yes, it's nearby. Some kind of license agreement thing. There we go. And it says all my stuff will be moved over. It says connect the AC adapter before starting the system transfer process. I don't know what it wants. I'm going to try to see if this says what the problem is. Make sure you're signed in. Yes. Make sure they're close together. That's all it says. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to turn the camera back on here in a second. All right, I finally got both of these hooked up right. It took a little bit more time than I thought it would. Turns out you had to have both switches plugged up, not to each other, but they both had to be plugged up individually to charging ports, and they both had to be supplied with power. They didn't really explain that very much in the manual on how to hook these two up, so I was just making sure that anybody watching this video knows how to do that. But now it should just download like normal, and I assume this is gonna take a while, but I was just letting you know how that works. All right, I got the setup complete. Now I'm supposed to just hit the home button. I'm guessing that's right here. And wow. Well, that was really cool. It just built itself up. I guess that's really all there is to the setup though. All right, so it's been about a month since I made the first half of the Switch 2 review video. So I've had a bit of experience playing on the Switch 2, playing all my favorite games, playing some of the Switch 2 editions of the games, and I thought that having some experience with it would make for a better review as I'd have more to talk about. So the first game that I'm going to kind of show off the graphics with in handheld mode at least will be the Pokemon Violet Switch 2 edition, because this one actually comes for free, the Switch 2 edition, that is, if you have a Switch 2 to fix the performance issues in Pokemon Violet. So I'm going to kind of show off a few places in that just to give you an idea of the power capabilities in this game. You can see it's a lot smoother. Well, let it load. Loading times are short in this game though. But here's Area 0. This is like a graphically demanding part of the game. The old one kind of lagged a lot. Area 0 on here seems to go very fast. The lighting, I think, has more to it. There's no lag, very smooth motions. Here, let me just take my character out. It just looks a lot more animated and really shows some of the graphic capabilities of the Switch 2. I'm going to show another section of the game that a lot of people used to complain about on the Switch 1 edition, that is, that the Switch 1 couldn't handle. So I'm going to go to an ocean. Let me just click this. Alright, another commonly complained about section of this game was how badly water would run. So let's just dive right in, why don't we? Pun entirely intended. And there's no lag in the water, even with all these Pokemon around. It just runs so smooth, it's just great. There's actually more Pokemon popping up too, as mass outbreaks in this game and all that as well pop up even more because the Switch 2 can handle more Pokemon. So I feel like that's a good little idea of how a Switch 1 game being ported to the Switch 2 with a Switch 2 edition works out. I think that this really made this game shine, but this is not a Pokemon Violet review, so I'll show another game off. I felt like another good game to test this out with would be the Switch 2 edition of Shadow Generations, because that is a pretty graphically demanding game. I thought it looked good on the Switch 1, but it has a Switch 2 edition as well. Doesn't have an upgrade path, but this isn't a Shadow Generations review, as I've already done that before. But anyway, this is how this game runs on Switch 2. If a Switch 2 edition, I have it in performance mode. I mean, not performance mode. I have it in image quality mode, where the graphics are supposed to look better, but it's only at 30 frames per second. I think that's more of a problem with this game, though, than the actual Switch 2 hardware. Here, but I'll go to a level and just show you how the graphics look on the Switch 2. I'll go to one of the more iconic stages, at least it's one of my favorites, Sunset Heights, because that game really shows off a lot of, this level, I mean, really shows off a lot of graphic fidelity and sunlight and light beams and shadows and ambient occlusion, all that good stuff. And it really looks good on the Switch 2. Like, even the puddles and stuff look to have some kind of ray tracing like stuff. I don't know if it's exactly ray tracing, but it looks good on the Switch 2. You probably hear the vibrations on it. But yeah, I'm very happy with how this turned out on the Switch 2. I'll play for just a second more, just to kind of show you some graphics. I'm playing this like hung over the Switch, or else I'd be doing better. Or even at night, the wings on here. I guess that's kind of it for this game, though. I was just kind of showing some of the graphics off as how it looks on the Switch 2. I think it looks pretty good myself. But then again, I'm kind of biased towards this game, but I'll show another game off. There's a pretty scene in this game, though, that I did want to show on the Switch 2, where you're kind of going over the city. Here, I'm just going to kind of fly more just to kind of show off how the graphics look, if you had any questions. I guess that's enough for this one, though. Felt like another good game to show off would be this Switch 2's version of Mario Odyssey, pretty much. This is like the big game of this console, along with Mario Kart World, which I will show here in a second. But let's really see those Switch 2 graphics brought to what Nintendo considers to be the best, I guess. So I've been playing a bit of Donkey Kong Bonanza and really enjoying this game so far. But I do think that it really shows how pretty the Switch 2 graphics are. Especially the snow world, which is where I'm at right now. It's also where I just happen to be, but there's a lot of detail on the Switch 2. Just kind of show how that looks on here. I'll go to another place too and just kind of show more of how the graphics look. And I'll go to another one of the worlds too that really show off Switch 2 graphics at their peak. Trying to see which one I think is the best. The forest layer is really pretty on here, so I'll go there. Load times aren't too long on the Switch 2 either. It very much loads very fast, and I do like that about it. This is fast for what the game is, I consider it at least. Maybe it's not fast in your eyes, but this is fast for Nintendo. So yeah, here's the jungle level. The layer with all the jungle stuff on it. I think it looks pretty good. You see they got all the good reflections and stuff on a lot of this. I don't think it's exactly ray tracing on here though. I do think it looks slightly better when it comes to lighting, but this is pretty good. I've never seen a Nintendo game really get to the levels that this game does before. And I know I'm just kind of randomly showing off gameplay that I'm at right now, but if you watch a playthrough of this game or something, you can see just how pretty the Switch 2 capabilities are. What it's able to do is a powerful console. But yeah, that's really enough. Well, definitely enough right there. I was about to get hit of the Donkey Kong Bonanza. I'll show Mario Kart World, and then I will show how the Switch 2 looks in docked mode. So here's Mario Kart World. I'm going to go into free roam just to kind of show off the graphics on this game. I do think it looks pretty good. I haven't played very much of Mario Kart World so far, but from what I have played, it looks pretty good. They do have way better graphics this time, I think, than Mario Kart Tour, obviously, because that's a mobile game. Definitely better than the DLC tracks in Mario Kart 8. I do think it's prettier than Mario Kart 8 as well. That's always going to be a pretty game in my eyes because it's very well optimized for what it is. But I do think this game takes the cake on
the graphical detail and all that. Because even the character models and stuff look really good on here. But as I said, this isn't a game review, this is a Switch 2 review. So I'm just showing off the graphics, the capabilities on here. You don't really see any lag or anything, or really any problems. So yeah, I think that's a win. Even the invincibility power is like absolutely beautiful in this game. Look what it does to Wario over here. I'm not even trying to play good right now. I just do. You can tell how much of this game I played. I haven't played but like an hour of it or so. But yeah, that's Mario Kart World on here. Alright, so here it is in docked mode. This is on one of those own Roku TVs. I think this one's like a 4K TV. And it's supposed to have some pretty good colors and stuff on it. So this is how it looks with the Switch 2. I think it looks pretty good on here. It upscales it to 4K when you put it in dock mode on the Switch 2, and that's something that I really like. And it's not just like any upscaling, it's got like the NVIDIA graphics put into it, where it like uses the, it's not exactly what you picture when you think of AI stuff, but it's like it's smart enough to know how to upscale it to 4K without having to actually render it 4K. It's really cool how it works. Yeah, I just turned into a truck. That's kind of cool. But yeah, this is how Switch 2 graphics look in docked mode. I think it looks pretty good. But yeah, that's really most of the graphical stuff I was going to show. Pretty happy with how that turned out. I don't really use the Switch 1 anymore after I've been using the Switch 2 because it does everything that the Switch 1 does except play YouTube for some reason right now. But I take that they're going to fix that at some point, hopefully. And that's really everything there is to do with the graphics on this game and on this console. Alright, so overall, I would say the Nintendo Switch 2 is a great console. I don't really have much that I don't like about it, aside from just the prices of having to get the Switch 2 editions of games for it to work on here, which, to be fair, they don't cost that much more. And I don't like the way that the prices are going on Switch 2 games right now, but I guess that's more of a greed problem than anything. The console itself, though, I think is nearly perfect. I think it's better than the Switch 1 in every way, and I really enjoy playing on it. I think for the price that it is, it makes sense, being how much more it is than the Switch 1, but it still costs less than this console generation that we're in now, still costs less than those consoles. For what it is, I think that this is actually the most fairly priced console on the market. I do think it could cost a little less and it would benefit from that, but I don't think it's too crazy overpriced either. I just wish the games didn't cost so much on it. But I highly recommend the Switch 2, and I think this is the future of Nintendo gaming, at least for the next few years. Hopefully the next 10 years or so, or more. I hope they support this thing for the long run. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Goodbye.